Good morning, Rays. KJ here. I'm inside my home because it's too cold to be outside. Yes, y'all, it's getting a little chilly out there. You better break out the fuzzy slippers and the blankets and the fuzzy robes. You better get it going on. How's everybody doing? And coffee does taste better in cold weather for some reason. I'm not quite sure how anyone could say they can't enjoy a nice hot cup of Java. Hello, Mikhail Callahan, Chris Arnett, Beach Lady, Nan's Life 7. Good morning from Ontario, Canada, says Nan's Life 7. Hope y'all are having a good morning. Some of y'all are in the middle of your day, and some of you are in the evening. Hi, April Gann. How you be, says April Gann. I'm doing pretty good. We've gotten some emotional gut punching news earlier this week, and KJ has been just really trying to put myself back together about it all. I honestly, y'all, I guess I just wear my heart on my sleeve too much. I don't know. Grammy B, good morning. Hello, Mary Stone. Hello, Paisley Dreams. How are you? So anyway, I'm back for Coffee with KJ. It isn't a very, very wonderful experience of drinking coffee without all of y'all. But I'll tell you what, y'all, tomorrow, y'all know what tomorrow is, right? Melanie Pawlowski has a court hearing in Arizona at 1:30 in the afternoon. She's facing some account of computer tampering, and you know what, y'all? It really, at this point, I'm just like, hey, anything you can do, whatever you can do, in terms of legality, just lay it on the woman, right? Hello, Just Me and Raising Cane and Jennifer Sukup and Little Lady Di. Hello, Little Lady Di. I haven't seen you in a while. Saltino Winchito. Anyway, so tomorrow she's going to be there, and I don't know. I don't know whether they're going to have live cameras in there or whether we're just going to have to hear about it. I know Justin Lum, he's let everybody know about it. I'm assuming that he's going to at least give us the lowdown. You know what I'm saying? And Saltina Winchito says any consequences are better than no consequences, right? But I wanted to talk to y'all about her charge there, and then I also want to go back a little bit because many of y'all that have been around for a very long time, y'all know that OKJ said that Ian Pawlowski was the key. Y'all remember me? I was like, I couldn't tell you why he was the key, but Ian Pawlowski is the key. I still believe it to this day. I just haven't quite had it materialize the way I want it to. And so we're going to talk about that charge tomorrow, and y'all can be sure that I will let y'all know tomorrow sometime, maybe in the evening, either through a pre-record or maybe I'll raise on deck or something, what I think about it all. But just to get some clarification and to kind of, seamlessly put it together the way that OKJ tries to do through application, I want to talk to y'all about Melanie Pawlowski. And we already, all of us know that she should have went down with her precious Aunt Lori, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And in fact, my opinion is that none of these crazy ass people will ever see the inside of a jail cell. Maybe there's a little tiny possibility that Melanie Pawlowski could see that briefly, but it's highly doubtful. Just Me says, I don't care if it's just walking, but she needs to be held accountable, says Just Me. So anyway, jaywalking, there you go, excuse me. I was trying to figure that one out. Just me. I thought, well, when she's got to walk her little happy ass into that court hearing tomorrow, I guess she's gonna have her attorney Garrett Smith there with her, huh? Isn't Garrett Smith Ian Pulowski's attorney and Zulema's attorney? That slimy ass attorney, which I can say this because I have a First Amendment right to say whatever the hell I want. He is allegedly, well, no, I'll stop there. How about that? But anyway, let's go into this real quickly, get it out of the way, and then I want to get to Ian Pulowski, okay? Because Ian, his testimony and Lori's trial, we all heard it. Some of us have heard it more than once to try to pick out things that we can add to any research and analysis that we might have. But let's get this out of the way first, and I'm going to just go right into it. And to all of y'all that are just coming in, Raising Cain, Grammy B, Just Me, and all of the rest of y'all, here you go. Right here are Arizona Revised Statutes, 13-2316, computer tampering. And this is what she has been charged with. In very general terms, usually occurs when someone hacks into a system, meaning they entered the computer system without the authority to do so, or exceeded what authority they did have. And we know she had no authority to do it, but I'm just giving you the lowdown here. To knowingly or recklessly disrupt, alter, damage, delete, or destroy that particular system's data or programs. Now, that doesn't sound, some of it anyway, doesn't sound like what Melanie Pulowski has done. Let's just get this out here. She agreed in her divorce with Brandon Boudreaux that she would take herself off of a business account. And she had 60 days to do so, and that was back in November of, I believe it was 2020. And what she did was she went all the way, it was November, December, January, February, March. It was March of 2020. Excuse me, y'all. This was when Lori had first been arrested. You can almost feel what Melanie Pulowski was thinking at the time as her precious Aunt Lori, the goddess and the queen of the 144,000, is sitting her damn hussy ass in a jail cell. Melanie Pulowski goes into that account way past the 60 days to get a copy of a $12,000 check so that she would have it for what, y'all? An upcoming hearing on custody. She wanted a copy of it. Brandon Boudreaux did not change the login information, and it's my theory that she had done this before, y'all. And Brandon knew how Melanie Pulowski operated, and if he had a signed agreement in his divorce that his ex-wife was not to go in there after 60 days, why would he change that password login information? Because maybe, just maybe, he knew she was going to get her ass busted, right? But that's just a theory. So the charge was dismissed initially, and I'm not quite sure why it was, but it was refiled. And I haven't figured out, and I've looked, y'all, trust me. It was dropped here in a news article, and then it doesn't say when it was refiled, the date, which I'm a stickler for dates. But the bottom line is she does have this hearing tomorrow on this one count of computer tampering, and it's a third-degree felony, okay? So I'm going to lay this out, and y'all tell me what you think. Okay, ARS 13-2316, computer tampering, the definition in Arizona. An individual who acts without permission or goes beyond authorized use commits computer tampering when the individual does one of these things or more than one of these things. And there are 8 things, y'all, that can be done to get a charge of computer tampering. And after each of these things, it tells you what they are. Some are 3rd-degree felonies, some are 4th-degree felonies, some are 5th-degree felonies. Well, I thought, well, I'm going to home in on the fact that the news article is saying it's a 3rd-degree felony. So I'm looking at these out of the 8. Here is a class 3 felony under computer tampering. It says accesses, alters, damages, or destroys a computer system with the intent to commit or execute any scheme to defraud or take control of property or services by means of false promises or pretenses. Now, let's look at this first one. She absolutely accessed something that she was not legally able, she wasn't supposed to. She signed off on it. It wasn't like she could say, well, we divorced, and there was nothing in the agreement in the divorce that said anything about that. No, it was absolutely brought out in specificity in the divorce paperwork that she was to take herself off of that account, and she had 60 days to do it. So she had a scheme, y'all. It says any scheme. It doesn't say it has to be a certain kind of scheme. It's any scheme, but it also says the scheme has to defraud or take control of property or services by means of false promises or pretenses. So that's one of them that is a 3rd-degree felony. And I'm assuming that when law enforcement reissued the charge and filed it, and she's going tomorrow, they looked at it. Well, she accessed it unlawfully, so that would cover that one. And then I thought, well, where's the other ones? There's 8 in here, and some of them are, 4th-degree felonies or 5th-degree. Well, I looked at it and I said, and there's even one in here that's a class 6 felony. So I thought, is there any more in here, any of them at all, that is a 3rd-degree felony? And I looked and I couldn't see anything else. And then, of course, the definition of what could happen if she is convicted with a 3rd-degree felony. She could get probation and up to 1 year in jail, or 2 to 8.75 years in prison. Now, she's not been convicted. She doesn't have much of a criminal record other than to say, y'all, she was convicted in Utah with an enhanced domestic violence thing. She was convicted of that. She was put on probation. That's Utah, though. That's not Arizona, but that's on her record. It'd be different if Melanie Pulaski didn't have nothing on her record whatsoever. But she has that, and she has been put on probation in another state. Was she still on probation in Utah when she did this computer tampering in Arizona? That's a question. I don't know. But even if she had already been taken off of probation in Utah, she still has that on her record. It ain't like it's some dang jaywalking, as Just Me was talking about. This was an enhanced domestic violence thing that put her ass on probation. And we all remember what that was. That was her trying with Alex Cox to go over there to Brandon Boudreaux's family there to try to get the kids back, and came into that garage. I am so shocked that Alex Cox did not go in there and murder Brandon Boudreaux's parents there. I mean, y'all, that's not a stretch at all, considering what has been done in this case. So she could get probation and up to 1 year in jail, or 2 to 8.75 years in prison. But let OKJ get down to earth a little bit. I believe, y'all, they're probably going to, if they're going to do anything to her, they'll put her on probation, which, y'all, is a sigh of relief. because she does need to be on probation. What does that entail? Sometimes probation can be you got to call a probation officer once a month. You're open to random drug screens, which, I don't see that would apply to her. Or they could put her on probation where she has to contact a probation officer once a week. Either way it goes, that's money for the probation services that she would have to give. Also, there would be some oversight. And we all have been saying it. These crazy ass people, Zulema, all of them, Melanie Gibb, and obviously Melanie Pulaski, if they can believe this crazy stuff and be taking part in what they did in the Chad and Lori Daybell crazy ass murder spree that they did, it would probably be best for Melanie Pulaski to obviously be on probation. I hope she gets probation. I mean, I would be tickled shitless, y'all, if they gave her some time in jail, but I don't see that happening. Obviously, you've got to look ahead. She didn't testify in her precious Aunt Lori's trial. I told y'all a long time ago she would have been a hostile witness, and that is my theory on why the state never really called her, which they could have called her. Yes, she tried to throw up in Lori's trial that she'd seen all these headlines and all this other stuff, trying to get herself out of all that. But her husband, Ian, testified. And again, y'all, will Melanie Pulaski be a state's witness in Chad Daybell's upcoming trial? That would be something very interesting if somehow the state could manage that. I believe that any time that any state's witness or even a defense witness is involved in anything legal-wise, whether it's computer tampering or a custody battle for kids or anything, that can kind of disrupt the whole flow of someone becoming a state's witness or a defense witness. But Melanie Pulaski is on a bare bones level, y'all. She's going to have to go to that hearing tomorrow, and she's going to find out one way or the other. It's just a constant reminder that I hope she is constantly reminded of her part in all of it. Jill Schneider says if she does, she will throw him under the bus to make her Aunt Lori look innocent, says Jill Schneider. Just B says, I'm sorry, but if you're praying for the death of children, you need to be watched. Right. I mean, I didn't see any evidence of JJ and Tylee, her praying for them to die, even though she was in those castings. But she was absolutely teetering on her own children, right? Good morning, Cindy Bullock. So, let me just sum it all up. Melanie Pulaski accessed Brandon Boudreaux's business account long after she was supposed to. She accessed it with a scheme in mind. She wanted the money, y'all. She wanted some of that check of that $12,000 that Brandon Boudreaux owed her. She wanted it for her court hearing. I don't know the disposition of that, whether she got $6,000 of that. It doesn't make a difference. The fact remains is she's got to pay that damn Garrett Smith some money tomorrow. And if she's put on probation, she's going to have to pay a little bit more for probation services. Maybe that'll eat away her greed. Her greed to get some of that money from Brandon Boudreaux, because ultimately, y'all, today, as I look you in the face, Melanie Pulaski and Brandon Boudreaux are still, y'all, they're still in this, whatever this battle is, because even Ian Pulaski said that there were still things going on in his testimony under direct examination from the state in Lori's trial, and we'll go through that. Happens to the best of us, Jill Schneider. I don't know what day of the week it is, apparently, says Kathy. So Jill says, Jill and Kathy Mama Bear are talking. Sam Willis says maybe she wanted a new ridiculous looking dress for that court appearance. Wonder what she's going to be wearing tomorrow, y'all. Is she going to be wearing the purple one? Is she going to get her a brand new dress with a beautiful necklace with a big old chunk of malachite right there? She is the malachite woman. She got into the castings with Zulema and Lori and Chad and Alex, and they tried to cast every freaking body away. Isn't that just crazy? Oh yeah, just me, these barrel curls or whatever they're called. The ringlets. The ringlets. Melanie Pulaski still wants to look like her Aunt Lori. So, I went back and I re-listened to Ian Pulaski's direct and cross-examination at the Hussey's trial. You know, I was a little disappointed in myself that I didn't really bear down more on his testimony. Obviously, we all have figured out, no matter who the state's witness was, specifically any of these cult members, there wasn't much that was gleaned. The state went easy on them all. You know, there were a few things that I've gotten out of all that. But before Ian Pulaski testified, as many of y'all recall, Archie had brought up, before he even stepped up on the stand, he says, you know what, Judge? We don't need Ian Pulaski or Melanie Pulaski testifying here because Melanie Pulaski has already made the statement that in terms of her Aunt Lori, the nail is already in the coffin. And I thought, well, how can I take that? How can I take that? If that is a true statement from Melanie Pulaski, that her Aunt Lori basically, if you want to put it another way, is going down. Melanie Pulaski didn't want to go down with her, huh? Because that's a true statement. The nail was in the coffin for Lori. So, you know, Archie, he argued that, and the state said, well, you know, let's get through this inquiry, Judge, with Ian and find out if Ian is able to testify. So we found out through Ian's testimony that Melanie P. saw headlines of Brandon's testimony. Does Melanie Pulaski say anything about any other testimony that she saw that would exclude her from testifying with the state other than lasering in on Brandon Boudreaux's testimony? And Ian talks about the reason that she had looked at that was because they were in current legal situation, which says to me they're still fighting in the courts, y'all. That's what I see in that. And Ian says that on the stand in the inquiry before he actually gets the okay to testify. He actually says that Melanie was concerned because of current legal matters involving Brandon and her. And really the ultimate question now that the hussy is in prison for the rest of her freaking life, will Melanie P. start this shit all over again when it comes to Chad Daybell's trial? Will Melanie P. say, well, I've watched all this stuff? Will she try this again because it worked the first time? Or did it? Could they have brought Melanie, could the state have brought her in, put her on the stand for an inquiry to see why she saw what she saw, what that was all about? No, the state didn't even do an inquiry on her. The state didn't even bring her up on the stand for anything. So there are questions in all of that. And I think it all comes back to being a hostile witness. And basically, in my view, Melanie Pulaski would have said things that would have helped her Aunt Lori. Let's just remember Ian's testimony, y'all. Ian talked about when he finally got the okay and the state started their direct examination, he talked about he had met Lori and Chad with Melanie Pulaski between November 20th and 25th at Lori's apartment. So what do? When I hear that, when he says that, I start trying to visualize him walking into Lori's apartment, hand in hand with Melanie Pulaski. Chad and Lori are there. He confirms that. And y'all, this is what? The day before the welfare check. And not to mention, even if they didn't know there was going to be a welfare check, y'all, this is within days of Thanksgiving. And Ian is going in there to meet Chad and Lori. He has testified that he knew Lori had children. Why doesn't Lori have her children with her? It's so close to Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is a beautiful time for families. Ian says in his testimony that there were things in Lori's apartment that made him think that there were children, such as children's luggage and backpacks. But when he was asked about seeing the children's rooms, he said there was nothing in there that indicated at that time that children were in there. In other words, no cute little posters on the wall or anything that would show any kind of personalized stuff for Tylee or JJ. And it's just quite interesting to me that Ian says between the 20th and the 25th. Why can't he just give us a day? One day that he walked in there. Why does he have to widen that? It could be the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th. Why can't he give us the day that he met Lori and Chad? Can he not back up from when him and Melanie Pulaski was going to go spend Thanksgiving together because she had no one to spend Thanksgiving with? All he has to do is back up. But I think he gave himself a little leeway. And of course, through direct examination, the state asks about, hey, Ian, what did you know? What was you told about Lori's beliefs? And, basically asking him about that. And he says that she talked about possession and castings and casting out and locking Satan away, folding him up like a taco and sending him to Antarctica and all that crazy ass shit. But he also says something very pivotal. And that from that day on, he says it. He says all the times that he saw Chad and Lori and that they were talking about these beliefs, Melanie Pulaski was there, which is no big surprise to us, but it also lends credibility to the fact that Melanie Pulaski was absolutely, and we know this, she was knee-deep in this altogether. You don't need Ian's document. Say Ian's document doesn't even exist, and you just go by his testimony here in Lori's trial. It's quite clear that Melanie Pulaski was in it. He does say that Ian says that it was Chad who wanted Ian and Melanie P to get out of town because law enforcement was all dark and everything. He says that Lori was more flippant about it, but Chad was serious as all get out, which speaks ultimately of Chad's guilty ass, evil ass. And when Ian goes to Chad's trial, which he will be a state's witness, he's going to say, yeah, they both talked about Melanie Pulaski and me getting out of town, that law enforcement was dark. But it was Chad who was all serious about it. Lori was more flippant about it. So there wasn't a whole lot, y'all. There wasn't a whole lot that Ian shed light on that we wanted to hear. I know good and damn well if somehow the defense had been able to get that ruling that they could hear one of those 9 recordings that Ian done of Melanie Pulaski and the rest of these cult crazy people, then maybe that would have given us a little more insight. But during cross-examination, there was the back and forth about those recordings, and the state definitely did not want them played in court. And obviously, y'all, common sense says that whatever was on those recordings that Ian Pawlowski did for the FBI, it would have made Lori look better or somehow would have helped the defense. But the judge did not allow it. We didn't get to hear it. Why wasn't it played? Could it have been that it was too prejudicial? Or, I mean, there's all kinds of things that, maybe this was in line with the state. When the state directly examines a witness, the defense can only ask questions about things that they speak of, but it was the state that brought up the secret recordings. And the defense, y'all, whether it would have helped Lori or not, which I don't think that even if it did help her, it would have kept her out of prison. I still think it should have been played, and perhaps, y'all, somehow, some way, those recordings will be able, John Pryor will find some way to get them played in Chad Daybell's trial. Regardless, even if John Pryor gets them played, y'all, Chad Daybell, those recordings alone are not going to exonerate him from all the freaking empirical evidence of his serial killer mentality and the things that him and Alex and Lori did together. Another thing that was brought out in cross-examination by Thomas was Zulema. It was Zulema that called Melanie Pawlowski to let her know that Alex was dead. Now, some would say, well, KJ, Zulema was married to Alex, so of course it would come from Zulema. Well, does anybody believe that Zulema didn't call Lori and Chad first? So Lori would have known before Melanie Pawlowski, but it was Zulema that calls Melanie Pawlowski about the death of Alex Cox. Why wouldn't the aunt, the precious aunt, the family member of Melanie Pawlowski, why wouldn't she call? Why wouldn't she be the one to break the news to her niece? Why did it have to be Zulema? Chad and Lori said in Ian's testimony, Chad and Lori told Melanie Pawlowski in Ian's presence a couple of weeks beforehand that they were going to have there's going to be this spiritual attack. And that was one of the reasons that Chad and Lori wanted Ian and Melanie Pawlowski to find some safety, to get out of town, because there was going to be a spiritual attack. They just didn't know what that was. It was just a general blanket statement. But y'all, under cross-examination, Ian does say that when Melanie Pawlowski found out that Alex had died, that right there made Melanie Pawlowski think, well, they just told us just a couple of weeks ago there was going to be a spiritual attack. We needed to get safe and get out of town. And now this is confirmation. And Ian said that Chad and Lori told Melanie P. along on this big group call that, yes, see, we told you. Some spiritual attack was going to happen, and it happened to our precious Alex. See, we know what we're talking about. We are the king and queen of the 144,000. So they framed Alex's death as the revelation being confirmed to Melanie Pawlowski, which strung her along even more. And don't get me wrong, y'all. She went in this eyes wide open. I don't think any of them were that damn brainwashed that they can't see the forest through the trees. And if Ian Pawlowski said in his testimony that after a few days of learning, after being married to Melanie P. and meeting Chad and Lori and stuff, after a few days, he didn't want to believe any of it anymore, well, he sure as hell didn't do a good job convincing Melanie Pawlowski, his new wife, that all this was a crock of shit. In fact, I believe Ian probably went along with things because He was new in his marriage. It was the honeymoon phase. Y'all, I'm just going to get down to the nitty gritty. He was just getting a taste of his new wife. Y'all, I'm telling you, he was going to go along so she could keep that honeymoon bed wide open. And if anyone sees anything on here that is derogatory or anything coming from anyone on the stream, please report them, block them. If 2 or more people do that, they will get kicked off of YouTube. So, let's move forward. Thank you, 1979 ACR. Raising Cane says Melanie Pulaski is as dirty as my husband's work truck. And it's dirty, says Raising Cane. Well, Raising Cane, my husband has a work truck too. And you can't sit down in the seat. There's just too much stuff everywhere. He shoves it in his truck. It don't matter if he pulls a freaking work truck off a new showroom floor. Within a few days, the truck looks like a freaking bomb went off in it. Good morning. Sam Willis says Lori was flippant about everything. And Ninja Jones, I love your accent, man. Well, I bet you've got an interesting accent as well. I've said before and I'll say again, we've got people from all over the world on this channel, and I bet everyone here has a beautiful, special accent. So anyway, tomorrow she is being faced with something that's really, y'all, if you think about it, Melanie Pulaski, when she realized in March of 2020, when she did this, she needed money, y'all. Where did all the money go from the initial divorce? Chad and Lori, they sucked that money away. That's how cults operate. Each member of the cult brings in money. Remember, the testimony, Zulema says, whether you want to believe it or not, which in some cases it lines up. Zulema says, when asking Lori, how are we going to finance this gathering and stuff? And Lori says, Melanie Pulaski is going to take care of all of us. And of course, y'all, that was before the attempt on Brandon's life. But even in her divorce, she got money. And she absolutely has had an attorney the whole time. Garrett Smith has sucked the tit of all these evil people. He has been their representation. She is, Melanie P. and Zulema are clients of Garrett Smith. How ethical is that? Does somebody want to clue me in on how Garrett Smith can be an attorney for 2 people that are basically, to me, in this cult, you would think that Garrett Smith could say, well, I've got to represent one of you. So the other one of you, y'all, I mean, they even asked, Archie and Thomas asked, has anyone, Ian, they ask Ian, they say, has anyone been talked about by Garrett Smith, your attorney, because Zulema and Melanie Pulaski are his clients too? Has he talked about them at all? And Ian says, no, I just don't believe that, y'all. Right. I didn't think about that, Cindy Bullock. I guess they've got particular attorneys for different people for different reasons. I'm sure there's probably a list that McConkey gives out of really good attorneys for people that call him from the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, such as the Hussey, asking for legal representation. No different than a referral list with Jody Hillebrandt's therapy crap that they even say after she was taken off the list, the bishops were still referring Jody Hillebrandt to people. So, it is what it is. Yeah, right. That's something I forgot about, Sam Willow. That whole issue with them attacking Brandon during custody and how they had to pay to settle a lawsuit from Brandon. Well, I'll tell you what, Garrett Smith is still in the game. Garrett Smith will be there tomorrow with Melanie Pulaski. I'm sure Ian will be right there hand in hand with her. And she's got a Class 3 felony charge of computer tampering. Brandon Latham says he ain't going nowhere. Right? So, will we get to see her in there? Y'all, my hope is she will at least be put on probation because of her prior conviction in Utah. She should at least get probation. If she don't get 1 day in jail, she should at least get probation so that some kind of safeguard from this crazy ass woman who will believe anything. I don't care if Ian sees the forest through the trees now and can guide his wife. The bottom line is that Melanie Pulaski is scary to me. And so is Zulema and David Warwick and Melanie Gibb. Y'all know Melanie Pulaski and Ian and the rest. Yeah, they're still faithful members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I guess my hope is at least I hope that church has got them through some counseling or some kind of something to wake their ass up. Oh, who knows? They might be making it worse if they have to go through counseling. I don't know. Sam Willis says, I don't see her getting much more than a fine, maybe some community service. Well, Sam Willow, a fine or community service would be better than nothing. My hope is probation, where she is under some kind of scrutiny, at least for a while. Because I'm telling y'all, make no mistake, this isn't me being, controversial or anything. Y'all, there is no doubt in my mind that these other people, they got off on everything and aren't able to be put in jail cells now. Something is going to happen down the road. One of these people, Zulema, Melanie Gibbs, someone is going to end up on the 5 o'clock news. And the state of Idaho is going to have to deal with that. They're going to have to deal with the fact that they made a deal with the devil. And, it's just going to play out the way it is. Hello, Krisha. Difficult research says Melanie Pulaski was on probation. At first, wasn't she? I think so. Yes, Krisha. She was on probation in Utah. What I was telling everybody earlier was she off of probation in Utah when she committed this computer tampering crime? Because if she was still on probation in Utah, she's not supposed to do anything wrong, whether she's in Utah or not. She's not, when you're on probation, you can't even get a freaking speeding ticket. So perhaps she'd already gotten off probation in Utah and, it went from there, but the bottom line is it's on her rap sheet. And a judge should take that into consideration. And y'all, really, the charge was dismissed and then refiled. Y'all, it's my view. I know it's too soon, too late, but Arizona is trying to save face. Well, if they want to save face, they need to come out and charge Melanie Pulaski with helping on the attempt on Brandon Boudreaux's life, and they need to file charges on that damn asshole Chad Daybell, who was calling the funeral home for Lori. Chad knew and conspired with Lori to murder Charles Vallow. And it's damn too soon, too late. I am thankful that Arizona is at least is going to make Melanie Pulaski get in her vehicle, pay an attorney, go down to this damn freaking class 3 felony hearing and make her waste a couple hours. It's the least that Arizona could do. And I guess the question is, what have we learned from Melanie Pawlowski during the Hussey's trial that will help us move forward in Chad Daybell's trial? Will those recordings that Ian done, will they finally get played? Will Melanie Pawlowski have to take the stand? And let's just look at it like this. If the state was unwilling to make Melanie Pawlowski take the stand in Lori's case, whether it was because she was hostile or they thought something bad would mess up the state's case, do y'all think that John Pryor don't see that? And maybe he'll put Melanie Pawlowski on his list. Who knows? Who knows? Because when the rubber meets the pavement, if Melanie Pawlowski is John Pryor's witness, she can be hostile to him too, but John Pryor can ask questions, critique his questions, and the state can't ask any more of John Pryor's defense witness than what John Pryor's trying to extract. I want her ass on the hot seat. That's what I want. And Ian Pawlowski, he did what he had to do. He did what he had to do, and the state, along with the other people that the state had as witnesses, that he didn't have a whole lot of testimony. He had the shortest of testimonies, y'all. Shorter than Brandon Boudreaux's testimony. And isn't that just interesting? That Melanie Pawlowski wants to, of anything else, according to Ian on the stand and in the inquiry, the one thing she was most interested in was Brandon Boudreaux's testimony, because there were legal things still ongoing with her and Brandon. Oh, I'm sure Melanie Pawlowski can't let go of the fact that her ex-husband just slammed and got a payout from her slimy ass attorneys. And she wants some of that money too. And I don't think I will ever accept why Brandon went ahead and done this joint custody stuff. I know it's their life. It's none of my damn business. I get it. But when you take it in totality, everything that Melanie Pawlowski was involved in, as a parent, y'all, as a parent, I would be scared to send my kids to anyone like that. And I know that Melanie Pawlowski, she has had a baby with Ian and all this and that. And Ian's going to stand by his woman and all that. But y'all, it can't be this happily ever after marriage they're in. They only knew each other 10 days. This is just the hypothesis, y'all. They are staying together because if they don't stay together, then people will say, well, they got married within 10 days. It was all Lori and Chad giving their blessing about it and all that. They want to show that they were past all that. That this was the real deal. This is real love. Let's not forget, Melanie Pawlowski is saying the whole damn time to Nate Eaton and to this other news organization that Brandon, even Ian has said that Brandon was trying to keep the kids from Melanie Pawlowski. It was the darkest time in her life, and Lori took advantage of that. Well, I'll tell you what. How could Lori take advantage of Melanie Pawlowski making a conscious decision to leave all her kids' shit over with Brandon and them and take off and get an apartment next door to Lori? She didn't have a problem being on her own there for a while. There is actual proof, y'all, in the custody battle legal paperwork between Brandon and Melanie Pawlowski. She's saying in text messages, well, maybe we'll work something out. They can stay with you full time and come visit me every now and then. She didn't want those kids. And in fact, when the shit hit the fan, she missed a crucial court date on custody with her kids around the time Alex was taken out. Whether he took himself out or Lori and Chad told him to take himself out, I believe Alex committed suicide. I'll never think otherwise. The bottom line is when she knew that Lori and Chad were off in their new existence, she knew then that she had to get, and her and Alex had a common goal. Poor Alex. Alex tells Zulema, after everything I've done for Lori and Chad, they don't have nothing to do with us anymore. Alex and Melanie P. banded together, started circling, trying to find those kids. Because Melanie Pulaski knew if she could get those kids back, the money would start rolling in again. Because that's what she was thinking. She gave it all up to start this new existence with her Aunt Lori and Chad and Ian and Alex and Zulema and all the rest. And then when it didn't pan out, she magically changes her mind that she wants her children. And she absolutely knew in March of 2020, after her freaked out, hussy ass aunt couldn't do anything anymore and was sitting in a jail cell, she had to look around. Melanie P. did. I gotta find some way to get some money. So she does something illegal. It's called computer tampering. Way after the 60 days. She thought she was going to get away with it. It doesn't matter that Garrett Smith says, well, and he has stated in the police report, Garrett says, well, as far as my client is, it's not her fault that Brandon was dumb and didn't change the password. That is absolutely a pathetic argument. It doesn't, it's ridiculous. And regardless of what was on Brandon's business account there, whether it had anything to do with Melanie Pulaski or not, the bottom line is that she was not authorized. She accessed it with no authority. She didn't call Brandon or text him and say, hey, I got to get into this account to get the copy of the $12,000 check. She wouldn't have done that because Brandon would have said, access denied. She wanted the money. She needed the money. And I guess the question really is was she doing this on her own, or did Ian know that she was going to access this account? Because Ian surely had to have known that she got a copy of that $12,000 check. So obviously Ian would have known how she got it. He ain't ended up to be a good, reputable husband to, at least after she gets the canceled check, a copy of it, to say, you know what, wifey here, Melanie P., I'm Ian, and I'm telling you right now, this copy of this canceled check off of, you accessed an account you weren't supposed to. Oh yeah, I know. Ian says he wasn't part of those divorce proceedings because he didn't go with her because of COVID. He's got a good excuse. Maria P. says, I think Ian Pulaski is also guilty. Well, if he is, he also did secret recordings for the FBI. I guess he saved his own ass, didn't he? I mean, he did say on the stand that he was going through a renaissance of his own belief system. You say that, and then in another step there, Ian, on the stand, you say that after just a couple of days, you knew what Lori and Chad and them were doing was not for you. Was his new wife, Melanie Pulaski, was she really so brainwashed and brought into Chad and Lori so bad that she would be unwilling to listen to her new husband, Ian? Because it seems to me that Ian was being holding on to that ass cheek of Melanie Pulaski, wanting to keep that ass in his hand. He was going to go along with it. She obviously cared more about what Lori and Chad said than her own damn husband. Maria P. says that Ian did the recording to save his own ass. Here's the bottom line, y'all. As I have told many of y'all, we are looking toward Chad Daybell's upcoming trial. And anything that goes on during this time and hereafter, it does affect things. I'm not quite sure how it is affected, whether Melanie P. would testify at Chad's trial or not. If she's convicted of this Class 3 felony, Ian Pulaski, you know, he got away with being on the stand with the state, not having to play those recordings. John Pryor is no pushover, y'all. Y'all know that I am absolutely convinced that John Pryor is going to extract much information from these state's witnesses that we did not hear in Lori's. And I'm not saying that that's going to get his client off the hook, but it sure as hell is going to discredit them. It's going to be the big shiny object that John Pryor needs to show just these freaked out state's witnesses. And Ian does speak briefly about what was on those recordings. It was brought out in those 9 recordings that nothing was ever said by Chad or Lori that implicated them in any kind of criminal activity. But folks, what we know, and I feel in my heart I know, and he has kind of said, is during these recordings, we could see and veer into how these people were doing all this crazy praying and blessings and all this stuff. They would fill in these little pieces of their erratic, evil, diabolical behavior. One way or the other, Ian is the key. And Ian, I can't tell y'all how that is. I'm still working on it. But when something sticks with me, there have been plenty of times that I've made statements that I've come back and I've said to all of y'all, well, I was wrong about that. And who knows, maybe down the road I'll do that. But at this point in time, I still believe Ian Pulaski is the key to busting this shit wide open. Does that mean that because I believe he's the key, that this household has to do with Melanie Pulaski? Guess we're going to find out now, aren't we? And we don't know. They say there's no charges yet of Melanie Pulaski being involved in any of this on the attempt of Brandon Boudreaux's life. Only Lori's been implicated in it. I mean, surely, they can find a link there. Although I will say this, y'all. Nobody wants to hear it, but I'll say it. Some of the state's evidence was that one of the Google searches by Alex Cox was Brandon Boudreaux's address. Now, if he'd gotten that address from Melanie Pulaski, why is he Googling it? Maybe he Googled it, and then when it didn't pop up because he moved to a new address, that's when he asked Melanie Pulaski. But here's the deal. If there was some conspiracy there, I mean, this is common sense. Why would he even go to ask Google what Brandon Boudreaux's address is? All he'd have to do is get with his co-conspirator Melanie Pulaski there. You see? These are questions that I have. And, Arizona is one thing and Chad Daybell's trial is another. Beach Lady says Lori's defense knew the recordings wouldn't look good for her, but I believe Chad's defense will try to put blame on Lori, so I expect Pryor to bring it out, among other things we haven't heard. Well, Beach Lady, if Lori's defense knew that it wouldn't look good on her, are you talking about Melanie Pulaski or Lori? Because if you're saying Lori, then they would have never asked for it to be played. So if you're talking about Melanie Pulaski, I see your point. But again, anytime the defense wants something, it's to discredit someone else or to make their client look good. If the state did not want those recordings played, which they were adamant they didn't, and they got their way in Lori's trial, something in those 9 recordings was not going to be helpful for the state. Because anything that is said in those recordings, say they were in there just talking about beliefs, that opens it up even more for the defense to be able to even look more. When something is introduced through evidence, there you go. The state made a mistake. They brought up the recordings within, and the defense pounced on it. Good morning, Eric Jasper. Good morning, Bonnie Shaw. Good morning, Miss DMC. There's only one thing I think of when I think of Alex's Google searches, says Miss DMC. And what is that? What is that, Miss DMC? Share it with us. Just Me says maybe the map. The map. Yeah, well, here's the situation though. When he Google searched Brandon Boudreaux's address, was that his address at the time that he was shot at, or before he was shot at, or was that his new address? Because it wouldn't have, if he had only been at his new address for a little bit of time, would that have even showed up on a Google search? Yeah, I get it, Just Me. I know what you're saying. When Alex asked Google for Brandon Boudreaux's address, perhaps, it's highly possible, that a map would have popped up on it. The question really is when was this search done? It had to have been after Brandon had moved. Brandon moved. Y'all let my mind think here for a second. Brandon moved after him and Melanie split up. He moved to a new residence. He was shot at by Alex, and then it was Melanie Gibb that went over to that residence afterwards, and he had left from there after being shot at. They didn't know where he was at. That's when he went on the run with the children. I'd have to look at dates, y'all. Well, that's a possibility, Maria P. Maybe Alex was making sure that the address that Melanie Pulaski gave him was true before he drove there. It's a good point. And Just Me says he could type in the address. Well, that's true, Just Me. But in the testimony from the state, it said he Googled Brandon Boudreaux's address. Now, does that mean he put in the Google search Brandon Boudreaux's address, or he actually put in Brandon Boudreaux's address? That was never specified, which make a big difference, wouldn't it? And Jill Schneider says probably for driving directions. Well, I'll tell you what, Jill. Melanie Pulaski is going to have to Google how to get to the courthouse tomorrow for her Class 3 felony hearing of computer tampering. It'll be GPS. It'll get her there. She will find a parking place. She'll go in with her slimy attorney, Garrett Smith. Will we get to see that? I don't know. But I know it will be reported on by Justin Lum. He'll let us know what happens. So to wrap it up, y'all, for the first offense of a Class 3 felony of computer tampering. Punishment can be probation with 0 days to 1 year in jail, or prison range of 2 to 8 3/4 years in prison. It does not say for a first offense a fine, okay? It doesn't say they're going to fine her and she gets to walk out the door. It says for a first offense. Probation, a little bit of jail time possible, or 2 to 8 3/4 years in prison. Says nothing in there about a fine, just a fine. So that was brought out. And so, y'all, I'm going to give a prediction before I get off here, y'all. Melanie Pawlowski is going to be put on probation. That's what I think. I don't know if it's 6 months to a year, but she's going, and I don't know if it's once a month or once a week. She's going to have to pay a probation office. That's my prediction. She's going to be put on probation. I believe that her having that conviction in Utah is going to make this possible. And yes, she's going to have to accept that even though she gets out of other things for now, someone's going to be watching her ass. So there you go. Maria P says, cuff that bee. Eric Jasper says, people have 0 respect for human life in the law. Extenuating circumstances should come into play. Very, very good there, Eric. I think so too. Right. Cresha says, it's like I don't even want to get my hopes up, but I'm also all for thinking positive, so I stand with you, KJ. Well, Cresha, I will always and forever stand with you. You know it to be true. Tomorrow, I'm looking for you, Cresha, to come out either with a live stream or a pre-record on the situation. We're going to find out, y'all. I believe Melanie Pawlowski's going to get probation. And yes, y'all, she deserves a damn jail cell. But we got to take what we can get, right? Right? So, I love you all. Have a great Wednesday. We'll get back together soon. If we hear any news, y'all hear any news, y'all been telling me. Y'all been telling me. Whenever I can't be on YouTube to find out any information, y'all been there for me. I love you all and keep on looking.